Hello, Cleveland Opera Theater. Welcome to Opera 101. My name is Megan Thompson, and I'm the Director of Education and Outreach. Before we get started, I want to let you know that we are going to be changing some of our online programming now that everybody's getting back to school and things are getting kind of shifting. So keep an eye on our website, clevelandoperatheater.org, for updates, and also make sure you sign up for our mailing list. Being on our mailing list is the #1 way to stay in touch with us and to make sure that you're hearing about all of our great events. So we will still have some Opera 101 and Maestro's Corner and Page to Stage, etc. But come next week, the schedule will just look a little bit different. It won't be every single day of the week, and it'll be a little bit different content. So like I said, just keep an eye on the website for the schedule, and you'll be able to stay up to date with all of our updates and changes. We're really excited for everything that's been going on. You might have checked out some of our older content on YouTube, some of our older playlists. And then, of course, we have our Barbara of Seville mini-series, the next episode of which will be airing this week. So again, tune in for that as well. So today, as part of our Mozart month, I'm going to, I want to actually bring up an opera that I enjoy, Mozart's Magic Flute. So this is his Singspiel, and it's one of the single best examples of a Singspiel in the entire repertoire, especially that's regularly performed today. And a Singspiel, to put it simply, most opera is sung through, right? Well, a Singspiel is a sung play. It typically tends to be a German opera that's lighter and has some spoken dialogue in between and some spoken scenes. These were especially popular during the later 18th century, so Mozart's Magic Flute was kind of early in this tradition, but definitely a great one, very reminiscent of the things that came later with our Gilbert and Sullivan style, where it's an operetta with a lot of singing, but still had those spoken scenes of drama interspersed. So Mozart, you might have already noticed, I said German. Mozart did write this opera in German, as well as a couple of his others. So while he was Austrian, writing a lot of Italian operas, he did go back to German language as well. So there was lots of stuff going on there. What I personally, so I guess I'm already enamored with this opera simply because it's the first one I ever sang in. So it has a near and dear place in my heart. But it's also just really interesting from an analytical standpoint because it's got a lot of it centers on the number 3. So there's been a lot of speculation through the ages as to where the influence was for this and where this came from. So now one big theme that has been dissected through the Magic Flute is the influence of Masonry. So this is Mozart's final masterpiece. And a few years earlier in his life, he had become involved with the Freemasons. And I do not propose myself as an expert on the Freemasons, so definitely do your own research. But one of the big things that really marks this fraternal organization is their use of symbolism, primarily in stonemasonry and in the work they're doing. But there was a lot of emphasis on the system of morality, allegory, symbols, squares and compasses were used quite a bit. The trowel, which is a triangular shape, was really emphasized a lot. So there's a lot to unpack within Masonry, and frankly, it's still shrouded with a lot of mystery as well, because you do have to belong to the order to be able to view any of their ceremonies or take part in anything. So we don't know maybe as much as we could, or as much as we do about some other, I don't even know if I can really call it a religion per se, but this organization. But with Mozart having become a member of the Freemasons, it is speculated that that's where some of the symbolism we see in Magic Flute came from. So quick rundown for the Magic Flute. It's a really good first opera and opera for younger viewers, simply because at its surface level, it's just a traditional allegory between light and dark, and how good always wins over evil. So if you're not familiar with it, you've got Sarastro, who is essentially the king of the sun. You've got the queen of the night, who is his wife or ish. They each have three assistants with them. So this is where the symbolism starts coming in. So Zarastro has his three spirits, and the Queen of the Night has her three ladies. And so this use of three happens. Then you've got this like battle going on between light and dark, and its most simplistic structure. You know, don't take this all out of context, but it's a traditional battle between light and dark. You have your prince who's trying to free the princess and save her. So again, very fairy tale-esque there. And then we throw in a birdman and a bird lady for good measure. So it's very folk song-like. There's a lot of folk song type melodies, especially in Papageno, our birdman's music. He has very early in the opera, actually, a very strophic folk songy melody aria. But the other thing that's interesting in this is that we also see these just crazy virtuosic arias that the Queen of the Night has, with all, you've heard it, I'm sure you've heard it, but with all the cadenzas and the coloratura, you've heard all of that. You've heard it in commercials, you've heard it in movies, you've heard it just whenever you hear the word opera, somebody has associated that with the term opera. But really, it's really interesting because it is bringing enlightenment versus ignorance to the surface. There's a lot of emphasis on the virtues of knowledge, justice, wisdom, truth. There's a lot of emphasis on the elements. In fact, in Act 2, we see our prince and the Queen of the Night's daughter, Pamina, rather, going through a gate of fire and a gate of water. So it's these ideas of these trials and tribulations to succeed and to triumph. There's an injunction of silence, which is where we get more back to that Masonic imagery. And so there's, at one point, they actually padlock Papageno's mouth so he can't speak. So that's kind of calling back to some Masonic ritual. The rule of three keeps coming back throughout, though. We also have, so in addition to our three ladies and our three spirits that I was mentioning, we also have three very loud chords at the beginning of the overture, signifying knocks, or in the Masonic tradition, it might be the knocks at the temple. There are three E flats in the key of E flat major, which is the primary tonality of the work. So that's another use of three. So there's a lot of stuff that's definitely heralding back to Masonry. And then if you really want to back it up, the Masonry is really based a lot in Egyptian lore. And so the opera's libretto is actually set in Egypt, though many people really don't even know that because many productions kind of ignore that. But it's there. It's there from Mozart. So I'm actually going to share a PDF from the San Francisco Opera that kind of goes through, it's short, it's not too in-depth, but it kind of breaks down a little bit of what I'm talking about the opera and the Masonry, so that you can read it for yourself. But it's a really great example of how our composers in the classical era were calling on the traditions around them in a lot of their music. And that while it's pretty melodies and definitely interesting to listen to, there is more to unpack there than just what's on the surface. And that's what I personally am always drawn to in any of the art forms that I follow, but especially in my operatic music. You'll probably notice that a lot of my talks have been more on how it ties into popular culture or other influences or other art forms. So I'm going to keep today nice and brief, but again, we are going to be changing our schedule for Opera 101 and Page to Stage, Maestro's Corner, our online masterclasses. So keep an eye on our website, clevelandoperatheater.org, to make sure you know what the new schedule is going to look like. And also make sure that you sign up for our mailing list so that you get all of the updates and links right to your inbox. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and whenever you're in doubt or have questions, definitely send them to us. You can leave comments on our videos, send us a message, or use our contact form on our website. Thank you so much for joining me today. Sorry to keep it short, but I want to make sure that we covered a few things. Definitely read this PDF that I dropped in the comments because that's going to help enlighten you on your search. And definitely, if you've never watched Magic Flute, go catch a production. There are some really great ones on YouTube. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon.